ABC News.
ABC Canberra News, I'm Anna Vito. Car accident victims want the ACT's motor accident injury scheme to provide more timely compensation. Lottie Twyford reports.
The ACT government replaced the existing common law compulsory third-party insurance scheme in 2020, hoping to lower car insurance premiums and open compensation to anyone injured in an accident, regardless of fault. But some victims seeking compensation say they have found it difficult to navigate and have been forced to spend years engaging with insurers. Gary Seary's son, Lachlan Seary, died in a car accident in 2021, and he said accessing compensation since had been difficult. He and his wife don't know what kind of long-term support they will get.
New data from the Australian Tax Office reveals foreign investment in ACT housing has surged by 80% since last year, mostly in inner-city suburbs. Foreign investors from China, Hong Kong, India, Vietnam and Taiwan spent a total of $218 million on ACT properties. The chief executive of the Real Estate Institute in the ACT, Maria Edwards, says Canberra is increasingly popular for investors due to a surge in new developments and a high number of international students in the city.
Post-COVID, there's been a lot more developments come off the plans. There's been a lot more apartment complexes coming up, and yeah, they've been looking at those. I think also post-COVID, a lot of students are back in town. There's more migration, so yeah, Canberra's becoming an attractive place for people overseas, I guess.
ACT Policing is urging drivers to slow down after two motorists were caught travelling at extreme speeds last week. On Wednesday evening, a 46-year-old Benithan man was detected riding a motorcycle at 151 kilometres per hour in an 80 zone on Isabella Drive in Gilmore. A 21-year-old Jerebombra man was caught driving at 142 kilometres per hour in a 90 zone on the Monero Highway in Fyshwick in the early hours of Thursday morning. Both had their licences suspended for 90 days, were fined almost $2,000 and lost 6 demerit points each. And in the NRL, the Canberra Raiders have lost a tense game to the Newcastle Knights, going down 16 points to 12 in Bruce. Newcastle now within one spot of the top 8, the Raiders are in 12th. Canberra's weather, rain increasing today and a top of 14 degrees, rain easing tomorrow, 5 the low, 14 the high, a possible shower on Wednesday, 2 the overnight low, a top of 13, and then frost and a possible shower on Thursday, 1 the low and 13 the high. This is ABC Canberra News.
Good morning, I'm Madeline Lewis with ABC Hunter News. The search for a man who went missing after his boat capsized on Lake Macquarie has entered its second day. Authorities spent yesterday searching for 23-year-old Luke Smith, who was on a boat with 3 other people when it overturned in the Swansea Channel on Saturday night. 3 men in their early 20s were saved. Local JD Marr helped with the rescue efforts, which resumed around 7 o'clock this morning.
We found the boat. One was holding onto the boat, grabbed him, dragged him into the boat, and then we got this second guy, got him in the boat, and then we're looking for the third guy. He was close to the rocks, and the fourth guy wasn't seen, so hopefully we can find this guy and get him home safe.
A teenage learner driver who was allegedly under the influence of alcohol has been charged over a crash that killed a 16-year-old boy in Port Stephens. Emergency services were called to Saltash on Friday night after a car with 5 teenagers crashed into a tree. A 16-year-old boy died on the way to hospital, while 3 other passengers suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The 17-year-old male driver returned a positive roadside breath test and has been charged in relation to driving unaccompanied, negligent driving occasioning death and driving under the influence of alcohol. He was granted conditional bail to appear at Raymond Terrace Local Court next month. Protesters have vowed to continue blocking coal movements into the country's largest coal port following 2 weeks of disruptions. Lillian Watkins has more.
Climate activists from the group Blockade Australia have been protesting for 13 days straight to block access to the port of Newcastle. The disruptions have impacted coal trains and hundreds of passenger trains. Over the weekend, 3 protesters allegedly staged disruptions by hanging off railway bridges and affixing themselves to port infrastructure. They have since been charged with causing obstruction to railway locomotives, among other offences. Blockade Australia says there have been 29 arrests so far, and the campaign to block one of the world's biggest coal ports is ongoing. The state's Minerals Council and politicians have previously condemned the recent actions.
New South Wales Police say people in the Coolah area could be withholding information about the death of a Narrabri nanny. 33 years ago today, Penny Hill was found badly beaten on a roadside near Coolah, northwest of Merriwa. She died 2 weeks later. No arrests have been made despite 2 inquests and a $1 million reward offer. Homicide Squad Detective Superintendent Danny Doherty says someone is keeping information about Penny's death from police.
People may be scared about coming forward or may be worried about retribution, or they may have, for some reason, misguided loyalties. However, on the passage of time, and it's over 3 decades now, we're hoping that those loyalties or that misconception of, I can't speak out, we hope that that's passed.
Turning to sport in the NRL, Newcastle Knights coach Adam O'Brien says his team's win over the Canberra Raiders was tough to watch at times, but their fighting spirit prevailed. The Knights took a 4-point lead into the main break, but had to fight a Raiders comeback to hold on for a 16-12 victory. Captain Kalen Ponga made an inspired return to the field after 10 weeks on the sideline due to a foot injury. O'Brien says it wasn't their best football, but he was pleased to get the result.
I didn't think we were particularly good in the second half. It looked like we were trying to find ways to lose there at one point, but whilst we weren't great with execution and some ball control and playing smart, our grit and determination and fighting spirit was intact.
Meanwhile, Bradman Best has been recalled to the New South Wales Rugby League side for this year's third and deciding State of Origin game against Queensland in Brisbane on July 17. The Newcastle centre replaces South Sydney's Latrell Mitchell, who has suffered a foot injury. In the NRLW, the Newcastle Knights won their pre-season trial match against the Canberra Raiders on Saturday in Wagga Wagga. Bridget Murphy reports.
The defending premiers scored first in the match, with Knights centre Abigail Roach going over for the opening try, quickly followed by Shanice Parker with Newcastle's second in the 27th minute. The Knights' other tries went to Tamika Upton, Jess Gentle, Georgia Roach, Taylor Predabon and Eva McEwen. The Raiders lifted briefly after half-time with a double from Emma Barnes. The final score was 28-8. In the match, both teams elected not to take conversion attempts off the back of any of their tries. The NRLW season begins on July 25, with the Knights hosting the Sydney Roosters at Hunter Stadium.
Cloudy in the Hunter today, high chance of showers, most likely this evening. Newcastle heading for a top of 20 degrees, Maitland 19, Singleton and Scone 18.